Welcome back to the Closer's Inner Circle podcast with Denise Griffitts and Ben Gay III. Our conversation this week is about how to handle any objection without losing control of the conversation. It happens. We all do it at one point or another. So we are deep in the Sales Infiltration Masterclass, and we're drawing the conversations that we're having these several weeks from page 257 of the Closers Part 2. And if you've been with us from the beginning, you already know every week we're going to go deeper, we go sharper, and we come out on the other side helping you to be better equipped to close sales. So if you're just joining us, welcome. And you're absolutely welcome to start here, but we do encourage you to go back to the earlier episodes in this series. It's easy to find. Go to your partnerinsuccessradio.com and just look for Ben Gay III. And we build, so each layer matters. So this week, we're tackling something that every salesperson faces every single day, and some of them handle it really badly, and that's objections. Specifically, how do you respond to the most common objections without losing your footing, losing your composure, or just completely losing control of the conversation? Because here's the truth, and Ben has said this for decades. An objection, write this down, an objection is not a stop sign, it's a signal. And once you understand what that signal is really saying, you stop dreading objections and you start welcoming them. In fact, you get them out of the way almost immediately. And Ben has trained more top closers than almost anyone alive. And he learned from the best, including the legendary Dr. Napoleon Hill. And he has distilled over 50 years of field-tested wisdom into the closer's books. If closing deals matters to you, head on over to Ronzoni Books, RONZONE Books on eBay, and that's where you can find his books. And today we are sponsored by a very dear friend of mine and somebody I have great respect for. This episode is brought to you by Learn It. Damon Limby is the CEO of Learn It, LERNIT. And in today's fast-moving business world, leadership, communication, which is what we're talking about here, adaptability, and continuous learning matter more than ever. And Learn It helps organizations and professionals build the practical skills they need to thrive, from leadership development and communication training to AI readiness, productivity, and team performance. And listen, for nearly 30 years, Learn It has helped organizations around the world. He's not just local, he is everywhere. And he has helped organizations around the world strengthen their people, improve collaboration, and create cultures built on growth and learning. And under Damon's leadership, Learn It has upskilled, listen to this, Learn It has upskilled more than 2 million professionals through engaging real-world training experiences. And this is important as well. I have this book. He is also the best-selling author of the Learn It All Leader, and he is the host of the Learn It All podcast. Find him. You will love the work that he's doing. So if you're ready to strengthen your leadership, empower your team, and build a culture of learning that lasts, visit LearnIt, LEARNIT.com, and discover what's possible when growth becomes part of your company culture. And find Damon on LinkedIn. Tell him I said hi. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am peachy.
Me too.
No, I meant it this time. When I down here, if we say, I'm peachy, there's two ways to say it. I'm peachy. There's a rising inflection. You're all happy. It's like, I'm just peachy. It means go to another zip code. Don't talk to me. So I'm somewhere in between the two of them right
now. Being a Southerner, I got it. Southern is a language unique to itself. And you have to learn how to read through it. My favorite one that is misinterpreted is bless your heart.
Bless your heart. We are not saying, oh, bless your heart, you're so sweet. We're saying, oh, boy. And if you hear us say, bless your little heart, oh, my gosh, that's not a compliment.
My mother, being a New Englander and never really acclimated fully to the South, although we lived there for years in Atlanta, when she said, bless your heart, it was time to run. She did not use it normally, and when she did, watch out. So
it was with purpose, I take it.
I
And
grew up
and I do the same
trying.
thing. Is if we say something like that, seriously, go to another zip code, get in your car, get out.
Yeah, I grew up always, if I heard the term, looking at the person going, "Okay, what did she mean? What did she mean?" And it was either run time or we were going steady. Um,
Okay, you have to explain that one.
well, some meant it lovingly, and like most people assume it's taken, and others it's a warning, as you know. Usually, you can tell by the inflection, though, and
Yeah, but you have to hear it.
yeah,
And if it's
exactly.
written to you in an email, uh, that's as we say in the South, that ain't good. That's not even close to good. So,
Well, let
yeah,
me
we
welcome our
got what
sponsor
Southerners.
today. Uh, Damon, is it Limby? Limbi, I know, but is it Limby?
Yeah, Damon
Okay.
Limby. Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard of him for years. I don't think we've ever met, but I know his material is highly regarded. And Damon, if you're listening, welcome to sponsorship with us. We really appreciate it.
we do. And Damon is one of my favorite people. He came on Your Partner in Success years ago, many, many years ago. And we've just gone from strength to strength. I mean, his work is phenomenal. And I'm constantly on LinkedIn and, wherever I am going, did you see this? Go look at this. Yeah, I think people really need to pay attention to what he has to offer. But you and we're talking about, and thank you, Damon, really appreciate you. But we're talking about sales and, what can go right, what can go wrong with sales. Mostly it's the objections. It's kind of, well, we've all done this, Ben. I know I've done it. Somebody will ask you a question or they've got an objection that you haven't fully fleshed out in your own head and you don't have an answer for it. And that's where everything just kind of goes, well, I'm going to go sit over here on the bench and quit talking. I'm done.
Yeah, wait for the storm to pass over.
Yeah.
Well, we hint around at this subject on a regular basis, so some of what I'm going to say will be repeats, but let's go through it again because we can, even when I'm making notes for these calls, Denise, I frequently learn because I'm reminded of things haven't had occasion to think of at some time. So if you've sat through the objection subject matter with us before, bear with us, but it needs repeating, and some of it will be brand new for you. The first thing when I'm teaching about objections is setting the table. And by that, I mean a whole lot of things. We talk about closing, the end of the sale, close the sale. Someday I'm going to write a book called The Openings because the sale starts long before the close. And it goes back to what are you selling, first of all, because as I've told our audience numerous times, the first trick in selling is to sell a quality product that's competitively priced and make sure before you waste their time and yours that they're qualified to buy it. If you have cancer and I'm selling a cancer cure pill, you're qualified to buy it and you'll listen intently to what I have to say. If you're my next door neighbor who's probably 80 some odd years old and I'm selling oil tankers, she has all sorts of objections. I don't need one. I don't know what an oil tanker is. I don't have half a billion dollars or whatever they cost to spend on it if I did, et
Stop
cetera, et
knocking
cetera.
on my door.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had two people who don't know how to read no solicitors arrive at our back door the other day. That's how they got through my defense. We don't even answer the front door unless you're expected and invited. But they caught me at the back door between the two houses and launched into their roofing and siding story. And I told them, I can't tell you how many times, no, And I would have said no, get off the property if I was really short on time. But
Too
I
bad
was
you didn't have a hose in your hand.
yeah,
That makes them go away.
but I was fascinated by their lack of skill, and the only thing they had going for them was persistence. They didn't hear the word no, and they just kept going back to their set thing, regardless of what I said. To the point I finally had to say, you are two of the most inept salespeople I have ever met. You're the reason people hate salespeople. I wish you had come to the front door where you could read the sign, no solicitors. So I'll just tell you back here, no solicitors. Go away. And finally, they put their tail between their legs and slunk off, if that's the right word, or slinked off, whatever it
No,
is.
they slunk. Slunk is, but why do you think they actually heard you there at the end? When you gave them specific, criteria to look at, specific reasons why they were bad, are they just going to go hammer on the next door neighbor?
Oh, they'll go into the next one,
Oh, that's too bad.
unperturbed and so on. And they'd still be talking to me, and this is 2 or 3 days ago, if I finally hadn't said, get off the property and don't come back.
Right.
And it turns out to one of our tenants, they had given him a full sales presentation, and they were using him as a reference. Drew said you'd be interested. Drew said you'd like this. I said, do you understand Drew is a renter? Did you ever ask him if he had any financial interest in either home?
Did
No,
you tell Drew that he's cut off the Christmas card list for that?
yeah,
I would
it
have had a
was
chat with Drew,
in,
but I'm sure
in,
he didn't do that.
incredible naivete. And I thought maybe they had a hearing problem. So there are objections that are real. Here's one: go away,
Hmm.
get off my property, etc. Those are real objections. Um,
I'm
short of
calling the
that,
police. There's that one. I'm dialing 911. You're trespassing.
short of that, setting the table properly is the real secret. Quality product, competitively priced, spend your time talking to qualified people, and listen. Uh, they will tell you. I told them that I was vaguely interested in some of their stuff. Give me your business card or your flyer or something, and in a few months we might call you. Now we won't, of course, because they showed themselves to be idiots and went on and on and on. It was actually humorous. I wish I'd gotten it on video. I'd play it in sales training classes. But setting the table is a big part. And then let's say you have a legitimate prospect who could conceivably be interested, who didn't just tell you to get off the property. Then you go through what you're going to do and what you expect and what you hope for, and you give them permission to ask questions, and you get permission to ask questions. I call it straight. I'll be straight with you, you be straight with me. And I follow all of those conditions by fair enough. And once they agree to fair enough, it knocks the legs out from under most of their standard objections. Also, speaking of objections, if you've been in sales selling XYZ product 30 days or more, you've heard every objection you're ever going to hear. They've been to prospect school. They apparently took notes, and they're loaded and cocked and ready to go uh, with their objections. I got to think it over. I got to check with my brother-in-law, etc. Rarely are they specific things like, oh, it's not the money. When they say it's not the money, it's the money. So, you can zero in on that. Not in an argumentative tone. You just bring it up and answer what someone who's concerned about the price would be concerned about without uh, alluding to the fact they already said it's not the money, you just go on. And then, as we've discussed many times, it's one of the great lessons that J. Douglas Edwards, the great sales trainer, ever taught, was if you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. You know they're thinking about it. So rather than waiting for the other shoe to drop, bring it up first, reveal it, show what the benefits of that are. I always give the Rolls-Royce example. I'll make it short, but when I was working with British Motors in San Francisco, I sat on their floor for a couple hours and watched their interactions with people, and I found their big objection: price. Back then, the starter Rolls was about $350,000. I think it's significantly more than that now, but whatever. And we would bring up the price first, and what a pleasure it was to meet someone who had done well enough in life to be able to invest, not buy, not spend, to invest $350,000 in a car. And you're saying, no, it's an honor to meet you, and I want to know all about you and how you did it and so on. What you're really saying is this car you're looking at is $350,000. Are you here to buy it, or was it raining and you just came in to get out of it? And there was a lot of that. Or a cold day in San Francisco will fill up auto dealerships and lots of other places too.
And
So
for
don't
those of you who don't know San Francisco, that's going to be a day in July, believe it or not.
I think it was Mark Twain that said the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San
It's
Francisco.
exactly right. If you get off that plane and you don't have warm clothing with you, you're going to head straight to buy the first hoodie you can find.
Exactly. And I love San Francisco. I used to love San Francisco. It's
Me too. I won't
unfortunate.
go there anymore.
Yeah, it's gone downhill, but the structures are still there and the view is still there. So when somebody cleans it up and keeps it clean, it will once again be one of the great cities on earth. I lived
Yeah.
right across the Golden Gate Bridge from it in Marin County and would find an excuse to go to the city 3, 4, 5 times a week. I just absolutely loved it. And
And you
not too
used to be able to walk around.
Yeah, well,
You don't
not
dare
too
do that.
long ago, I turned down a seminar opportunity in San Francisco, and they said, "Well, moments ago when we were talking, you had that date open." I said, "Oh, the date is still open. What's not as open is me going to San Francisco." "Well, we'll send a car, pick you up, deliver you right to the front door, so security and stepping in things won't be a problem." I said, "It wouldn't be a problem for me anyway. I know Uber's phone number and so on. What I'm not gonna do is put my clients, prospects, friends through that. I'm not gonna say, 'Come meet me in San Francisco.'" That used to be what you said about Oakland. I would now be more inclined to do a seminar in Oakland than San Francisco. It's not as pretty, but you get to look at San Francisco from a distance, and from a distance you can't see all of their problems with human droppings and
Right.
homeless people and so on.
When I
Uh,
was a kid, Oakland was a no-go zone. We were warned by our parents, do not let me catch you in Oakland for
you
any reason. Berkeley
know,
was okay. San Francisco was fine. All the surroundings of Oakland's like, oh no.
well, it's sort of
Glad to know it's
swapped now.
changed.
Yeah, Oakland is not a paradise now, but
No.
it's better than it was and far better than San Francisco. You just don't have the benefits of San Francisco on that
Yeah.
side of the bay.
It's too bad.
Gertrude Stein, I think it was, said of Oakland being a San Francisco snob back in the good days. She said the problem with Oakland is there's no there. But
Hmm.
that's true, unfortunately, of so many big cities now that have just gotta be turned around. And that
Yeah.
too can become an objection. The COVID-19 virtually wiped out the seminar business for a couple of years or more. It still hasn't fully recovered. And so you got that lingering thing. And then you got people who got out of the habit of traveling. I travel far less than I used to because thanks to Zoom, etc., it's not really quite as necessary. In person is always better, but I'm not willing to pay the high price for always better. Uh, so back to objections. What you need to do is make your sales presentations and Sales Infiltrators, the chapter you were working from. Closers Part 2 starts on page 257, gives a full description of what a sales infiltrator is, does, and how to be one. But among them is you become their friend. People like to buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe. It gives you an opportunity to be their friend. That won't get you past a bad high price product, but it'll get you over a lot of hurdles. And then keep it conversational. You alluded to some of the people I've worked with over the years, and I pulled out the list that I have printed out just in case you ask more. And then knowing the subject matter today, I started looking down through it, looking for people who worked with set closes. Uh, Script chunks are great, but you don't, the days of the 1 hour presentation word from word back from front to back are over unless you're giving a group meeting, to 500 or more people. Those days are over. The winners among us now hold conversations that are guided, well planned out, and tested. As I started down through the list, I'm thinking, okay, who was a hardcore closer on here, overcame objections and so on. I'll skip some of the names, but Dr. Napoleon Hill is first on the list. And Think and Grow Rich was written as a sales book for sales people.
And most people don't know that.
No,
I
they've
didn't know it
adopted it.
until you told me that, and I went, "What?" I
Yeah,
had no idea.
they think it's philosophy, and that's fine. Whatever you get out of it, great. But he wrote it as a sales training book for salespeople. And yet, when you go through it, or when I used to listen to him in casual conversations up at the house or over lunch or whatever, he never uh, did a set pitch. He had conversations with me, and we chatted like old friends. And if he had a plan in the back of his mind, I never caught him at it, as Cary Grant said. You're always
Yeah,
helping
you
me
got it this
with
time.
with
Was
who
it
said
Hal?
it.
It was not Hal Holbrook.
It- The
Yeah,
secret to selling, a secret to acting is not to get caught at it. That's also
right.
the secret of selling. And Dr. Napoleon Hill was a sales infiltrator. He didn't know the term. I hadn't made it up yet, but he was one. Bill Patrick, William Penn Patrick, the owner of Holiday Magic Cosmetics, where my serious career started. When you were with Bill, he got that thing said about him that really successful people always do. When I was with Bill Patrick, I felt like I was the only person in the world or the most important person in the world. And that was Bill's secret. It was conversational. I spent so much time around him, I knew phrases that he used, but they were sort of script chunks. I never caught him trying to sell me on a thing. I never caught him trying to sell me, period. He had a conversation with you. And I remember one time I was having problems. We had somebody in the business, it was a multi level marketing company, stealing and had been involved in a bad deal. And I was trying to figure out who the villain was. And so I'm drawing circles. I'm leaning over him at his desk and I'm drawing circles. And he put his hand on top of mine. And he said, "Ben, who got the money?" I said, "Well, so and so." He said, "Well, there's your thief. He didn't steal somebody else didn't steal the money and give it to him. He stole the money. That's how he got it." And so that great philosophical marketing plan mystery was solved through common sense and conversation. Next on the list is Earl Nightingale. Earl was a great salesman. He had to sell radio stations into carrying his uh, daily broadcast. It was called Our Changing World and appeared on over 900 radio stations 5 days a week in the United States and Canada. That took serious selling. Before that, Earl had owned an insurance agency. In fact, he wrote The Strangest Secret, the best-selling non-entertainment record in history. He wrote it for a sales meeting at his insurance agency that he couldn't get to. So he wrote it and recorded it so they could listen to it at the sales meeting. Everybody commented on it so strongly, he turned it into a record. Now I'm sure it's on video and all sorts of places, but I still have the original record I was given in 1965 right here on my desk. But I never caught Earl selling. A great salesman, but he just talked to you in that godlike voice, and he just had a conversation with you. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, great salesman. He was a minister at the big church in New York, but he just talked to you. And if you spend enough time around him, you might hear the repeat of a story, as you did with Earl and Bill Patrick and Napoleon Hill, but it's because it fit in that conversation at that time. They were conversational. Dr. Maxwell Maltz used to work for us in seminars. Great guy, known for psycho-cybernetics and other books and so on.
I
But a
have that
good
book.
salesman. Beg your pardon?
I have that book.
Yeah, excellent book. And he
Mhm.
was a great guy, but he just talked to you. He was never, he talked me into hiring him as a speaker on a regular basis at a fee more than we paid most other speakers, because it was that or he didn't come. But I don't remember any, as I'm talking about these people, I'm thinking back in my mind, how did they sell me? What did they do? So and so. I can't think of, so far, I can't think of a single one who I caught selling. They were conversational. Now, they did overcome, Og talked about, and Maxwell Maltz, Og Mandino, they both talked about their price because they were higher than other people of the day. So they brought it up. You can get other speakers for less, but let me tell you what I bring to the audience. And by the time they were finished, the price seemed perfectly reasonable. Another one in that category of friendly conversationalist was Bill Gove. He worked for the Wilson Learning Institute. Larry Wilson, who's also on the list. Larry and Bill Gove were two of the great storytellers of all time. But the stories led to sales, and they overcame objections as they went along. Bill Gove said when he opens the door to the refrigerator and the light comes on, he said, I do 5 minutes. The other thing that Bill did for me, he said, Ben, we teach by accident, but what we are entertainers. We give them a few moments of relaxation and laughter, and we slip in some stuff they can use, but we're entertainers. So what he was doing, and Larry Wilson was although he worked for Larry Wilson was a real student of his, as was Wade Cannon, who's also on the list. He worked at the Wilson Learning Corporation. They were all storytellers. Next one on the list is, I'll skip over, it doesn't fit this conversation, is Charlie Manson of the infamous Manson family who I met at San Quentin. I
Did you
don't
feel me
really,
shudder? You should have felt that all the way across the miles. Every time you mention him, I just go, boo. Okay, keep going.
but I've told this story about Charlie. When I walked into his cell in the adjustment center, he'd asked to meet me at San Quentin. I spent 9 hours with him total over 3 meetings. When I walked into his cell, it was a 2-bunk sell one over the other. And no one was in the top bunk, and they were overcrowded, so you'd have thought all bunks would be filled, but nobody wanted to sleep in the same tight quarters with Charlie Manson. So
Uh,
he
say it
he
ain't so. I mean, why not? He was famous. Come on.
yeah,
Ugh.
he used the top bunk as a shelf, and on that shelf were some random pieces of clothing and the only book in his cell, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He said it was his Bible and that he could have built the Manson family without it. So even Charlie was following the same basic rules of selling a good product. His was just bad, but of selling a good product and knowing how to present it. And I spent 9 hours with him. He was quite intriguing, fascinating, not persuasive to me at the time because I knew where I was and he knew where he was and so on. But had I met him less experienced and younger, um, I told Jimmy Rucker, my old running buddy and the greatest salesman I ever personally worked with, I told him, I said, Jimmy, be glad we didn't meet him in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco when we were wandering around 19 looking for our place in life, because he might have gotten us. Next one on the list, and this is an exception to the rule, is Cal Worthington, the automobile dealer. Cal was a straight-up, in-your-face salesperson. He didn't make any bones about it. He was always selling, and but he had a unique personality that he built his career around, so he got away with it. But so far on the list, he's the only one I would say was not a sales infiltrator, although he was to a degree through humor. In every television commercial, he always had an animal with him. And no matter what it was, a giraffe, a pig, or whatever, he called it his dog Spot. So I watched his commercials just because they were funny. I wasn't going to buy a car from him, didn't know him yet, but they were funny. So he used humor to be a sales infiltrator. But I repeat, he was not the normal sales infiltrator I know so well and admire so much. Jim Newman, he's the guy who invented the term comfort zones. And also, um, I've heard it said in many different ways, but it's not important which way the wind blows. It's important how you set your sails. And he created that. When I knew him and met him, he was the founder and owner of PACE Seminars, PACE. You can look it up on your internet. There's probably some of his stuff still there after all these years. He was a sales infiltrator, and he taught all those people how to be one. Not that term hadn't been invented yet. And then the next two on the list, I'm just running it down and using it as a guide, are exceptions to the rule. J. Douglas Edwards, he was an in-your-face closer from the stage. He's the one that said, when you ask a closing question, shut up. And he's also the one that said, we have a built-in objection, bring it up first. But here's an interesting thing. From the stage, he was a hardcore closer, and you say this, and they say this, and so on. Seems rather old-fashioned now and wasn't effective then either. The good news is it not only wasn't effective, nobody did it because they didn't have the nerve to do it. But Doug Edwards you could catch him selling on stage, one-on-one, after the meeting was over, sitting down, working with people. All that bluster went away, and Doug Edwards had a conversation with you. Paul Meyer, Success Motivation Institute, SMI, he's gone. I don't know if they are or not, but they used to be a big player in the sales training motivation industry. Paul hired us, us to teach his people how to sell. He said, Ben, they can't do what I do, but they can do what you do if you can get it across to them. And that was not to get caught at it. He said, I don't want them doing what I do. They won't be able to pull it off. I want them to tone it down. He didn't use the term sales infiltrator yet, but that's what he meant. Jimmy Rucker, James H. Rucker Jr. is on the list. He was, as I say every time I mention his name, the greatest salesperson I ever personally worked with. And he's the one, I didn't dedicate it to him. If I ever rewrite or reprint the book, I think I will. Sales Infiltration starts on page 257 of the Closers Part 2. That was inspired by, and every word I wrote was on a legal pad with a pen. Every word I wrote, I thought of Jimmy Rucker because he was the ultimate sales infiltrator. Everybody loved Rucker, and it almost didn't make, he sold many different products over the years, but it almost didn't make any difference what he was selling because he was selling himself. I've told you the story about how proud I was when some little girls that were there with their family came up to me after a meeting. They hadn't been there 15, 20 minutes, and they called me Mr. Gay and asked for my autograph, and I was really flattered and said fine and signed it. I almost didn't know how to sign an autograph or what you were supposed to do. I didn't know yet to carry my own pen with me, for instance. And then moments after I signed the autograph, Mr. Gay signed the autograph. Jimmy came over and they said, "Hi, Uncle Jimmy, how are you?" I repeat, they hadn't been in the room 20 minutes. But he was Uncle Jimmy. I was Mr. Gay. And that's one of the clearest separation of salesman, powerful speaker versus a sales infiltrator who just slipped in and infiltrated their whole family down to the little girls. Next on the list is Hal Kraus. He was head of American Sales Masters, which was the big seminar. Peter Lowe did something similar years later, but American Sales Masters was where I met J. Douglas Edwards and many of the others that we've already talked about and others that we haven't. Because if you were anybody in speaking, you were trying to get on Hal's stages. I don't remember. I did a lot of business with Hal, hired him and his company numerous times. I don't remember ever catching him selling. He was a conversationalist who, in his conversation, brought up every objection you could possibly have and overcame it without your help. He didn't need your help to sell. And next on the list, and they have nothing to do with selling, was the astronauts of Apollo 15, 16, 17. I was the attitude coach for the astronauts and ground crews of those 3 shots and a lot of the other things that were going on at NASA at the time. Then we come to Ray Considine, one of my mentors, taught me so much about selling and how to carry yourself and so on. When I think of Ray, who sold me a lot of stuff over the years, I can't remember A, what he was selling, probably his writing and speaking skills, and B, I don't remember ever having a sales presentation. Ray convinced me that we were the best of friends, and everything else was conversational and humorous stories and so on. Here's a funny thing about Ray. When he died, he was, I guess, in his late 80s, best I recall. It's been a few years ago. I was concerned because he had mentioned a couple of times that his speaking engagements had slowed down because all of his contacts had died or retired. So when I got word, Chris Considine, his son, called me. He said, who I'd never talked to, I knew of him. Ray talked about him constantly. He called and he says, Mr. Gay, this is Chris Considine. I said, I'm not going to like this, am I? He said, no, sir. Ray had died. And so I drove all night to get to his funeral because I didn't want Ray put away without few, if any, people there other than immediate family. He deserved better than that. I went skidding into the church about 2 or 3 minutes before the announced time, and fortunately was able to get the last seat in the church. it was packed. And it was packed with Hollywood types because he was uh, well known in that element. He was a crossover between show business and selling and writing and speaking. But I wiggled into the last seat in the church, packed, and then people started getting up and doing what they do at funerals, talking. And almost everybody who got up said something that indicated that they, he, she, they were Ray's best friend. And then it slowly dawned on me. I wanted to stand up and go, no, no,
It's
I'm
me.
Ray's best
It's me.
friend.
I'm here. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I was in a funeral as Ray's best friend with his other 400 or 500 best friends. He
but you
was
know, that's lovely though. It really is that he had that kind of impact on you and
he,
so many others.
he sat down at dinner with us one night, the first time Gigi ever met him. And when the dinner was over, she said, Ben, don't take this wrong, but I love Ray Considine. Welcome to the club.
Too late. I already took it wrong.
But if he dies again, get to the church early.
On time. Yeah, yeah, you've talked about him a lot. And I've got his book, Wamish. Tell
Yep.
people about that.
Wamish is cute. It's all caps and it's an acronym for why are you making it so hard, dot, 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 for me to give you my money? And that was sort of Ray's attitude when he was selling. This isn't a battle. We're friends. And by the time he finished talking to you, you were his best friend. And therefore, whatever he recommended to you, you bought. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. Uh, and he was also, by the way, if you want to look up Ray Considine on the internet and see some pictures of him, he was a male model when he was younger. By the time I knew it, he was white-haired, handsome, tall, striking, big Hollywood glasses. But he was a male model and blonde in his youth, and you could see why the women might be attracted to him. And the gentlemen, we all loved Ray Considine. Again, he didn't know the term sales infiltrator, but he was one. And then we come to Werner Erhard, and I have beneath him John Paul Goldberg. When I first met him, knew of him, he was selling pots and pans and encyclopedias, Est and the Forum, and all the other stuff came later. He worked for us at Holiday Magic. It was one of our top instructors in mind dynamics, and he attended leadership dynamics. I don't remember him ever selling a product or service successfully for us, but Werner, and then he became Werner Erhard. What Werner did was he became a relatable guru. He wasn't somebody you felt like you should be in front of 2 million with 2 million people looking at him through binoculars. Werner was handsome guy, and striking looking, not as handsome as Ray Considine, but handsome. And he was a sales infiltrator. That he was our top. We had many good instructors in mind dynamics among our other companies, but among the other instructors at Mind Dynamics, Werner was the best. And he would have continued working for us, but he overplayed his hand. He walked into Bill Patrick's office one day and announced that he wanted 50% of Mind Dynamics or he was leaving. And sort of like Donald Trump is now, he said that to the wrong person. Bill Patrick stood up. He was taller than Werner, draped his arm around his shoulder and said, Werner, I'm really sorry to hear that, as he began guiding him down the long hallway to the front door. And when he got to the front door, he said, oh, Werner, before I forget, your key, please. And it probably all worked out for Werner anyway, but he was making a lot of money with us and using his sales infiltration skills, but he overplayed his hand, demanded 50% of the company, and was walked to the door. There's a real lesson in that. Make sure that you have other plans ready when you make your demands from someone who holds your current paycheck. They can all do without you and can easily replace you. Next on the list is Bob Proctor. Bob worked for us at Holiday Magic in Canada, then the United States, and then all of our seminar companies. And I'm not going to make up things about Bob, about sales infiltration or anything. I was pleasantly surprised how well he did later at the Proctor Gallagher company or whatever it was called. In that I will admit he was very effective, but he was a cold fish. I really don't know. I may have told you this story. I went up to Canada to save the company. It had lost money and sales volume for 5 straight years, declining volume and increasing losses. And Bill Patrick asked me to go up and save it. So I did, and I landed uh, in Toronto and was picked up by Jerry Bowes, who probably ought to be on this list, a great guy, one of our top salespeople. And I said on the way in to the hotel, I said, okay, Jerry, what do we got to work with? I'm here to save the company. He said, absolutely no one. And then he paused. He said, but his name is Bob Proctor. Right. I said, so he has a name? He said, yeah, he's never done anything, but I'm telling you, he has great potential, which reminded me of Pogo, the old cartoon character. He said in more than one comic strip, great potential is the heaviest burden of all. And Bob Proctor had it, but to his credit, he never did anything with us that was amazing before or after I got there. But he went on to great success in his own company. Maybe that's what he needed. And then we come to Tom Hopkins, sales infiltrator. A little close. He was trained by J. Douglas Edwards. A little closer to I say this, you say this, and so on. But that was from the stage. That's not the way he sold. The way he sold was as a sales infiltrator. And then comes Zig Ziglar. Zig was a great storyteller, and everybody loved Zig. He couldn't close one-on-one a refrigerator door. He was the setup guy for his partner, Melanius, who was the great closer. Zig would say, you say this, they say that, you say this, and so on. But I never heard him doing that. He'd get off stage and keep laughing and giggling, and if you liked him enough, you signed up, and if you didn't, it was a great evening because he was a lot of fun. But he was a sales infiltrator, not a salesperson. And there are people listening to this who won't believe what I just said.
So
But
he wasn't really a closer. He got
no,
everybody kind of revved up, but then
right,
Mel had to come behind and say, "Here you go." Is that about right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And Zig and I joined Holiday Magic on the same day in the same meeting, Wednesday, September 15th, 1965, at noon at 1447 West Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Suite 300. So
How can you remember that? I
it was
don't know
such
what I
an,
had for lunch yesterday.
yeah, nor do I, nor could I swear to you I know our house number,
Okay, I feel better.
where I woke up this morning. But the turn in my life was so profound that day when Bill Dempsey recruited Zig, me, and Jimmy Rucker that I just never forgot it. And the Bill Dempsey, as we were leaving the office, gave me 2 things. He said, "You're young and inexperienced, so you're going to need these." And he handed me a copy of the record, "The Strangest Secret" by Earl
Mhm.
Nightingale. And it's right now. I can touch it without even leaning forward. It's right on my desk. And with the other hand, I can touch the copy he gave me of Think and Grow Rich. Earl Nightingale and Dr. Napoleon Hill both wound up working for me, as did Zig. But I'm not bragging, I'm giving them credit because they taught me, along with many of the other mentors I've mentioned, they taught so much to me that I sort of forget who was whose boss. Well, I was Zig's boss, beat him in a year-long national sales contest, but Zig taught me more about public speaking than anyone on earth ever did. But I paid for it. The way I paid was I carried that water pump he used to talk about all the time into probably 50 different meetings for him. Because I
Wasn't
said,
that
Zig,
thing made of iron?
it was the original one was a rusty old pump that really came off a farm,
Yeah,
made out of iron. His
yeah.
the one he got later was, I guess, stainless steel and shiny and so on. And every time I'd see him with it, I think, I wish it had been like that when I was carrying it. It was messing up the front of my suits.
I
But
bet.
the deal with Zig was I'd carried the pump in exchange for, and look like his lackey, in exchange for a free ticket, front row seating, and lunch and or dinner with him before or after the seminar. And then I would ask him things. I'm good at pumping out information from people. I would ask him things. Some of them were funny. I asked Zig, what are the great secrets of public speaking, doing it well? And he said, there are only two. And I said, well, what are they? And he said, never pass up an opportunity to sit down or to go to the bathroom.
Sorry. Now I've
Yeah.
got that in my head.
So that's it. He said, pretty much that's it. And then he taught me other things. He said, you're not good yet. Speak at every opportunity you have. And he used to laugh and tell people Ben Gay would work a traffic accident. Well, he's the one that told me, if there's two more people gathered together, practice your material. And then right beneath him on the list, and we're next to the last from the bottom, is Bob Schuler, the Crystal Cathedral, Garden Grove Community Church, The Hour of Power on television. Bob Schuler was a sales infiltrator. Great guy, wonderful person, hard promoter, but you never caught him at it. He sold, I think it was it might have been 5,000, I forget, but we'll say 1,000. Then I know I'm either right or less than the truth. The Crystal Cathedral, now a Catholic church, after Bob died, the Crystal Cathedral went bankrupt. But he sold the windows in the church. When you went to the Crystal Cathedral, you had a little map, if you wanted to, with you, and you could show your friend, okay, go up 10 rows, go over 5 spots, that's my window. And he raised, I think it was $5 million for that. Then still didn't have the 17 million, as it turned out, because things go up while you're building things. He didn't have the 17 million it took to open the church debt free. So he sold the seats. I think there are about 3,000 seats in the Crystal Cathedral. You could have your name put on the back of the seat. Then he discovered, and this takes selling, and and he did it from the pulpit. Then he discovered, seems to me sort of common sense, but the Crystal Cathedral, in essence, was one of Buckminster Fuller's domes. Therefore, the sound ricocheted in there. Bob used to say, if you want to hear one of my old sermons, sit in the back row. It's probably still bouncing around in there somewhere. So to solve that problem, he decided to put a speaker in the back of every seat. So when you sat in your seat, there was a speaker right in your face from which you really heard it instead of over the live microphone bouncing around. So he sold the speakers. Now the seat was dedicated to whoever paid for it. The speaker was in front of you was dedicated to whoever paid for it. The windows above you were put in by people who bought their windows. Talk about a salesman.
So he understood ownership.
Exactly. And then he gets down to the end and they're $1 million short and the whole church is done. Everything's in it, but he's still $1 million short and he wanted to open it debt free. So he's standing there one day looking around and there was the solution, the organ. So he sold the organ to a lovely lady for $1 million. And I think they still refer to it by her name, whoever's in there now. But he
Is the
wound
organ
up.
still there in the building?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
Yeah,
I
I'm
say he
thinking that's
stole it, you got to put your name
okay.
on it.
Your name on it. Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm thinking it's what I think it is, you don't move those things ever.
No, no, this
They're
is a
part of the
huge,
building. Yeah.
yeah, huge pipe organ. Yeah, it and the big one at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, uh, were the two biggest pipe organs I ever saw. And $1 million was a good deal, but you couldn't take it home. You had to take friends to look at it. And the last person on the list who was highly effective at what he did, end result, I had to fire him from Holiday Magic because he brought in the wrath of several attorney generals in the southeast United States all by himself. And that was Glenn Turner, the guy with the speech impediment, the cleft palate. Uh, he worked for us and was never our top distributor, but he was very good at the money, but he brought with it problems. So I said to him, I called him to the office in Atlanta. It wasn't mine anymore. It was Jimmy Rucker's. I'd moved to California, but called him to meet there. And I said, Glenn, I'm going to have to let you go. And he said, and I do a bad imitation of Glenn. And he said, why? And I said, because you lie, cheat, and steal. So your distributorship, and you brought in all sorts of trouble for us from several attorneys general. And I said, so we're done. I wish you the best, but we're done. And he said, well, if I can't lie, cheat, and steal here, I'll start a company where I can lie, cheat, and steal. And he started Coscott
Sorry.
Cosmetics. And although several people went to prison over it, um, he made a lot of money with it and uh, did a great job. Glenn Turner hired F. Lee Bailey, the
Oh,
attorney, when they were going
I
through their criminal trial. And I met Bailey once, yeah, read about him frequently, as we all did, the attorney for the Boston Strangler.
right. That's how I remember him.
Yeah, so when I met him, I said, you and I have a mutual friend. He said, who's that? And I said, Glenn Turner. He said, make that mutual acquaintance. He said, I thought the Boston Strangler was interesting. Glenn Turner took it to a different level. And he said, he told me a funny story about him. He said, he was so good at faking things, man. He was rolling in dough when I first met him, and he hired me, paid the upfront retainer and so on, no problems. And I thought everything was fine until one morning I got notice in my bank that the last check from him had bounced. Then, as I hung up the phone and opened the door, I met the hotel manager who said to get out. I don't care if you're F. Lee Bailey, your bill isn't being paid. Get out. He
Uh-oh.
said he was rich the night before. He thought, and flat broke the next morning. So Glenn, but I will
I'm gonna
have to
have to go
admit,
look him up. Now I've got to go find a biography about him.
yeah, I admit that I liked Glenn Turner probably more than I should. He was a charming rascal
Well, he
and in
sounds like
sales.
he would be somebody that you would really enjoy being around, but you would know better eventually not to do any business with him.
Exactly, exactly. And he used to travel. He sort of had a traveling freak show, and I don't mean that in a negative way. That's what he had, him with his speech impediment. And then he traveled around with John and Greg Rice, the two little dwarf twins, and they would fly with him on the plane, and we landed in the same area on more than one occasion. And let's say I got out of the Lear first, they would get out of their plane. I think it was an early Gulfstream, as best I recall. The hatch would open, and John and Craig Rice would come tumbling down the steps. They could have walked, but they would come tumbling down the steps like a clown car at Ringling Brothers, followed by Glenn, followed by a blind person, followed by he built the company around people who, so he could say if they can make it, anybody can make it.
Right. Marginalized people.
Yeah.
I have to
So
go find out. I have to find a book about him or two. He sounds fascinating.
he had a book. I forget what was written about him or with his permission and cooperation. It was called Glenn Turner, Con Man or Saint. And if
That
your
sounds
audience,
familiar.
if,
Con
if,
man, saint.
if your audience has any connection with Glenn, there's about half on one side and there's half on the other. If you get any angry emails or something from this broadcast, I'll bet you it'll be about Glenn Turner because there are people just, although he's dead, gone, convicted criminal, everybody knows what he did. There are people who love and worship him to this day, and they won't like what I just said, but it's the truth. And I too loved him. I found him just fascinating. Anybody could be that crooked, that open about it, that humorous about it, and travel around bragging about it. You got to admire somebody like that, if only from a distance, with your wallet in your front pocket.
Zipped up. He sounds fascinating. I am going to go find out more information. Ben, thank you. We are just about out of time. Um, any kind of final thoughts? And I wanted to ask you if we can talk about this next week, because we're talking about, how you can kind of present yourself, sales. You need to be open, honest. But how about Zoom sales? Because I'll be honest with you, I've closed sponsorships in particular on Zoom sales because I don't show up in public ever, ever, ever. And if I do, I've got my baseball cap on, my black Ray-Bans on, and my resting bitch face on. Nobody knows who I am. If I'm out and about, they don't have a clue. But I think if you are presenting something and it's coming from the heart and it is honest and it is true, you can use Zoom or even the phone to sell. So what are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
Yep.
Okay. And I know that webinars, for a while, and I don't really want to go deep into webinars, but you can sell on webinars if you've laid the table, and that's a lot of work.
You can sell on webinars, podcasts, direct
Right.
mail,
Right.
Zoom, in person. Selling is selling. Some are not as warm and fuzzy as others. I love live events. I just don't like traveling to them. Uh,
Exactly.
but when I do a live event, I'm the first one in the room in the morning. The janitor and I meet together as he or she unlocks the door. And therefore, when people start coming in, I'm welcoming them to my room.
Mhm.
And then I do far more good and business off stage than on stage. And then the janitor and I, sometimes not the same person, we lock up the room together. I almost don't know how to leave a meeting room unless I hear the vacuum cleaners running. The,
That
the
makes sense.
that, that's my signal. It's time to go. They're
Yeah.
cleaning up. But in the meantime, all I'm doing is making friends and having conversations and offering them quality products and services.
And that leads me back to why I was asking about Zoom, because as you know, my podcast is very conversational, always
Hmm.
has been, always will be. And when I'm doing my pre-interviews, very conversational. I mean, I'm not trying to sell a darn thing. I just want to know who you are, why you would like to come on my podcast. Tell me about you. It's conversations, everything. And I am an introvert, big time introvert. You mentioned don't come to the door because, like on my door, there's a sign that's been there since 2005. Um, and I just kind of refresh it every once in a while, but it flat says, if you're not invited or not expected, do not knock or ring the doorbell. And I
There you
mean it.
go.
But you know who
Yeah.
does? Politicians. They don't care. I don't think they can read. But that doesn't mean I don't like people. I do. I'm just better off left to my own devices. So for me, conversation is networking, it is marketing, but that's not why I do it. It's because I'm genuinely interested in what you have to tell me.
Hmm.
And that makes a difference. People can tell if you're just going, I'll listen to you long enough until I can ask you something. No, no, that's not how we do it. But let's talk a little bit about that next week if we can get to it.
You're the boss.
I know. Yeah, and I'm gonna act like I believe that. So, listen, everybody, thank you so much for being with us this week and every week, every Wednesday. And be sure to ask us questions. For the longest kind of time, we got questions through LinkedIn and we answered them on air. That seems to have slowed down a little bit, but we'd like for you to connect with us. Go to either one of us, me, Denise Griffitts, or Ben Gay III on LinkedIn, hit the message link and send us a note. Ask us a question and we will read it on air. So everybody, thank you. Ben, I will see you next week.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Me too.